given that this industry, by all accounts, is just take, 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 but then you have this black cloud in a way and potential shame kind of hanging over your head and embarrassment as well too, and that black cloud and shame possibly being an alleged sex tape of you that you didn't know was taken, and something may have happened to you against your will. What is it like potentially for these celebrities who are experiencing this trauma, but then have to put on their face, their PR face, their brand face, and that typical image that we see of them in the magazines or on social media?
They're having to keep things a secret. They're having to live their life. And again, I don't think that it's new. I think for many of them, they probably have been struggling with this years before some of these stories come out. The amount of guilt, the fear, the conflict. I mean, again, when I talk to people in situations where they're forced to keep things secret, many of them end up being suicidal, developing addictions, having eating disorders. It wreaks so much havoc, and I think it's important to say to the public, when as we start to find out more about these witnesses or these enablers, we can sit here and judge them and be angry at them and say, how could you not have said something? But unless you've lived in their shoes, you don't really know what that would be like for that person. And again, the other thing that we have to keep in mind is some of these people who've been walking around with such awful secrets, they may already have secrets from their past before they encountered some of these awful atrocities that were happening either to them, in front of them, or basically right next to them.
And something that I've been noticing, I think that many of our viewers as well have noticed too, is that we're seeing a lot more people who were not only just allegedly minors at the time that these incidents had occurred, but also we're seeing more men coming forward as
Mhm.
well too. Talk to me about kind of the trauma that men experience from sexual abuse. Of course, one not being wanting to talk about it until possibly later on, or maybe not even recognizing that something like this had happened to them. But as we're having more discussions of men who are also victims of sexual abuse, why, in your opinion, do you think we're not we, excuse me, but a lot of people are so prone to just dismiss it or not believe it?
I think it's easier to say, "Oh, that would never happen to a man." I think it's also easier to sort of typecast. Men are the abusers, women are the victims. That's not true. It's not like that at all. And the other thing to keep in mind with the Lyle and Eric Menendez story and the statement that the prosecutor made back in the 80s, where she says in a public courtroom, boys are not equipped to be raped." The truth is that's just not the case. And I think for men, what happens is the shame and the stigma and the fear that people are going to completely disregard, disbelieve them. It just makes it harder. I can tell you, I've been working with survivors for almost 30 years, and I've seen just as many men as I have women who have very, very similar stories of being sexually assaulted, abused by men or women in power. I think right now times are changing and we're finally starting to believe anyone can be the victim of sexual assault, male, female. It doesn't matter what your demographics are, it doesn't matter what your gender is. So I think the one positive thing that's coming out of this story, in addition to some of the other stories, right now we're hearing so many stories of celebrities in power who are being accused of raping men. So I feel like now is the time for men to come forward as well as women. And again, I would say that to any male, no matter what day or age we're in. But I feel like now there's more there's more support for them to come forward because they know they're not the only ones. And I think that we are starting to understand and believe anybody who's vulnerable, anybody who's in a position where they're being threatened could be the victim of these type of crimes. Male, female, it doesn't matter.
And in your opinion, do you think it's at all possible that any A-lister, B-lister, C-lister, D-lister celebrity will come forward to be like, you know what? I It was me who was in this video. It was me who was abused by allegedly by Sean Diddy Combs. Do you think that we'll see a turning point of celebrities coming forward to be like, this happened to me too?
I think it's definitely possible. And I think it's going to go like this. If there's one brave who what I would call warrior, who is a celebrity in one of these videos who comes forward, that's all that we need. Meaning, as soon as one person comes forward, then you open up the box and people start feeling more and more comfortable. So we'll have to just sort of sit and wait to see. But my feeling, my heart, and my all the thoughts that I have for all of these people involved is I hope one of them feels like they can come forward because they will have support. And I do believe that while there's going to be disbelievers and they're going to be shamed and threatened, I also think there's going to be a lot of people who will hold them and support them and say, we've got your back here and you did the right thing.
Yeah, and we do have some celebrities who have had that courage to come out so far. Of course, that being Cassie Ventura, and Don Richard as well too. But as far as we know, Don Richard is not involved with the freak offs or sex tapes or anything like that. But Sherry, thank you so much for your time today and so much for your insight. Before we sign you off, anything else you would like to add?
I always have something to say. And the thing that I'm thinking about for anybody out here involved in this case, if you are someone that has been abused by someone in a position of power, if you're one of the victims of Sean Combs, call somebody, ask for help. Don't feel like you have to come forward today if you're not ready to come forward. But I just really urge people to speak up and know that times are changing. And once you speak up and you let the secret out, then the healing begins. And there are a lot of people out here who really want to help, and we can't help if we don't know. So I'm really hoping that we're going to hear from a lot more people so that they can get the help, the justice, and the support that they so deserve.
Right. Sherry Botwin, thank you again so much for your time today. Always great to see you and always appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to federal charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Through his attorneys, he's denied all allegations of wrongdoing. He's expected to appear in court again next month, and his federal trial at this time is slated for May. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Milner.